Hello and welcome. So we're going to be looking at building a simple calculator application for our desktop using the TKinter GUI model. Whenever you hear the word GUI, it simply means graphical user interface. So it simply means that instead of just running your output and seeing it on the console or your terminal, you're going to see it as a graphical interface, user interface box, which you can appreciate. It will look much better. So earlier we had looked at creating a simple GUI, but in this class we are going to not just create a simple GUI, we're going to create a GUI and we're going to add a function to it. So we're going to create functions that can be triggered when you press the widgets on the GUI. So once you click on any of the widgets, you should see this some function perform. And that is what we're going to be looking at in this class. So if you guys are ready, then let's go do it. If you guys are ready, let's go do it. Please, once you're joining the class, make sure you mute yourself so that it doesn't disturb our class. So I'm going to quickly share my screen so we can start immediately. Please, can everybody see my screen? If you're joined, is my screen visible? Ibukwe Odnaka and Fortune and Emos can all of you see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Ibukwe, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Can hear you very well.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is what we looked at. We said that TKinter is a graphical user interface model for Python, and it is a standard Python model interface model. That means it comes with the Python. We can simply bring it in by saying import. And for you to create an application using TKinter, you simply import the model TKinter, and that was what we did here in line 11. Then secondly, you create the main window. That is what we did here. And thirdly, we add widgets. Those were the things we did here. We added the button widget, label widget, and entry widget. Then finally, you have to apply the event trigger on the widgets. We did not do that in this class, but we'll do it today. This is in the class that we're going to be having now. And like I said, once you create your window, you need to add your window a title, the geometry, that is the size, and you run it by saying this very main loop function. So if you run this very code, we are going to see this. So this is what we see, but you cannot see this now. But can you see it? So let me try and make you see it so that can you see it now? Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, it's now visible. So good. I wanted it to be in this one so that you'll be seeing it. In the previous class I had, you were not seeing it. So this is what came out whenever you run your application. So I'm going to close this down now so that we'll get to today's class or get to now's class. I'm going to hover over Python tutorial so that I'll create a new file. So I'm going to go to new. So what do we call it? TKCalc. So TKinter calculator.py. So that's what I'm calling this new application we're building. Yeah, so once this is here, so we'll start. So from our explanation, what is the first thing we'll do? Everybody, join the class, tell me. You people will be telling me the code I'm writing now. I'll be taking instruction from you. So what do I do first? Good, import the model. Please be on mute. Be on mute. Okay. So to import the model, I simply say from TKinter import all. I want to import everything in TKinter. So after importing the model, what's the next thing we'll do? We'll create the class. We are going to use class in this time around. We are going to use class. Why do we want to use class? We want it to be an object-oriented programming. And you know that once you use class, you must have your constructor where you define all your properties. It's always good to create your application using class. So we're going to do it. You're going to find out that it's actually very simple. So to create a class, we simply say class. Then the name of the class. So what do we call this class? Let's call it, class name starts with capital letter. Simple addition calculator. Simple add calc. That's what I'm going to call it. Then you put your colon and you start writing. You have to indent before you start writing. So what's the first function or the first method that you create in a class? Who can tell me the first function or the first method you create in a class? What's it called? The constructor. It's called the what? And to create a constructor function, how do we do it? We say def. Then we say what? Double underscore what? Init. Then we put another double underscore, isn't it? Then in brackets, we can simply say self. And we are going to put everything inside the window. So we just say self and win. So let's now bring in the things we need in this class. So what are the properties or the widgets that we're going to be needing? So first of all, we're going to need a label that we are going to write number 1. So to bring in a label, how do we bring in a label? We know how to bring, but because this label we are bringing it inside a constructor, we must say self first. We must say what? Self first. We must say self. So we say self dot. So you now bring it normal way of bringing a label LBL. That's what we called it in the last class, but so we're gonna call this one LBL1 because we want to bring in many labels. We don't want to bring just one label, so we'll call it LBL1. So we'll bring in the what? The class, which is label, because we are trying to create an object of label. So where are we putting it? We are putting it inside win, which is the window. And we are gonna be say text. What text do we want to be written on it? We're gonna simply tell it to do what?
Number 1.
Number 1, good. So I can simply say number 1, or I can say first number. So you can use any of these, first number. So that is it. So after bringing it in, we can place it. I hope you know we can place it. So how do we place it? We place it by simply saying what?
Label the place.
We label the place, but because it's inside a constructor, we simply say self dot LBL1, isn't it?
Okay. Yes.
Am I right?
Place.
Good, dot place.
Yes, sir.
So where am I placing it? Where do I want to place my first label? My first label, I'm gonna place it at x100 y50. So let me place it at x equal to 100 and y equal to 50. So that's the first widget I'm creating. So I'm going to run this first before we continue so that we don't write out all the codes. So to run this, and we are creating a window, I hope you know. And the window we are creating is equal to, is an object of what? A tick. So we're going to be calling it my win. We are doing this now because we are using object-oriented programming way. So I'm going to call it my win in small letter. And it's going to be equal to the name of the class, which is actually what? Simple add calc. Simple add calc. And it's actually going to be the window. So having done that, I can add a title by simply saying window dot title. We all know this. So what title am I going to be giving this? I'm going to be calling this Tclassified.com calculator. And after doing this, I'm going to give it the window a geometry. So what geometry do we give our window? Window dot geometry. So what geometry do we give? We are going to give 400 by 300. Okay, let's give 500 by 400. So we are giving 500 by 400. And we're going to add like we did before, plus 10 plus 10. And once we are done doing this, what next do we do? We simply say what? Window dot what? Main loop, which we already know, in order to run this, to create this and make it come on. So that's what we have for now. So let's see how this looks. So I want you to know that this place we said my win equal to simple calc. We are simply creating an object of the class simple calc, which is very, very important for this to work. So having this, I'm going to simply say Control S to save. So once I save it, we should be able to run it and let it work properly. So to run it, what do we type? We simply say what? Python space what? What's the name of this file? TK what? Is it TK? Yeah, TKCalc.py. Okay. So I have an error. You can see where I defined my constructor, I did not put a colon. So there has to be a colon here. So I simply put this colon, save again, and run again. Are we seeing my GUI? Is it coming out? It came out now. It came out. Let me quickly minimize my screen so that I can see my taskbar. So this is my GUI having only first number. You can see the title Tclassified.com car. Please, is everybody seeing my GUI on the shown screen now? Okay, because in the last time we couldn't see it. So that's what we have. We just created only one, we just added only one widget. But you know that what we have here must be constant. Window.title is the title. That is this title you're seeing. Window.geometry is the size. And that is this size. And this main loop makes it to run. This is the initial window we created, window.tick, because this is a tick window. That's the second step that we take immediately after doing the importation. Then because we are using a class this time, that's why we have my win equal to simple calc, which is we are creating an object of simple class, simple addition calculator. So that is what we did here. It's very clear. So now we're going to try adding more things because we want this to be a real calculator. We want it to perform a function. So having done this, let's start adding other labels immediately. So to add label number 2, I simply copy what the label number 1 is. Very simple, because they are going to have similar thing. Then I come down and do what? Paste. So instead of label 1, I'm going to have label what? 2. And instead of having first number, what should I have? Supposed to have second number, isn't it? Then I'm going to place it. So where am I going to place my level 2? Where would be the best place to place my level 2? I'm going to place my level 2 at 100, 100. So X 100, Y 100. Later, I'm going to teach you guys about grid. We'll be using grid instead of using this top form of geometry. Using grid will be easier for you to understand. So I'm going to run this so that we'll see the impact of the second level we just added. Okay. So this is the second level. I'm going to close this. so that when I run it, it can come. Can you see the second level, second number? Is that clear? Okay, can you see the second one?
Yes, sir.
Good. So let's add another one. I'm going to add another label for results. I'm simply going to still copy this label, get it down, and I'm going to call it label number 3. So what is this label number 3 going to have as the text? Instead of second number, it's going to simply have results. Because I want to be able to add number 1 and 2 and get a result. So it's going to be results. So I'm going to try to place it at 100 and 200. Let me try to place it at, so level 3. I'll try and place you at 100 and 200 and see how it looks. If I do Control S to save, then I come back here, close it up so that I can run the new one. So you can see I now have result down here. So I brought in 3 labels. So after bringing in the labels, I'm going to try to bring in entries. So that's what I will bring in now. Let me bring in the entries. Let me bring in the what? Entries. And we all know how to bring in the entries, isn't it? Do we know how to bring in the entries? From what we did last, we should know how to bring in the entries. So I'm going to give 1, 2 space so that I know that I'm starting a new thing. So bring in entry, we simply say what? Self dot, what will be the name of the entry? So let me take it as entry T1, T2, T3, just the way I'm doing LB1, LB1 and LB2. So I have T1. So that's the first entry, T1, and I'm going to say it's equal to what? I bring in the class where it is, the object is being created from, which is entry in capital letter. And I want things in this entry to be bold to the size of 3. That's what I want. Everything that you type in, let it be bold to the size of 3. So I'm going to bring in the second one so that I'll place them together. So you can just bring in and place, or you can bring in all of them and place together. So to bring in all of them and place together, let's try that by saying copy this. We'll now come down and bring in the second one. And this second one is gonna be what? This thing is not charging. Please, somebody should touch this. My system wants to go off. Please make sure you plug my own. Sharp. Remove the other ones there. Make sure you plug my own. Because, oh yeah, it's starting now. It has gone off. Okay, it's starting now. Leave it. It's starting. So I'm going to change this to T2. I don't want it to be bold or anything. I just want it to be normal. So I'm finally gonna bring in, copy this and simply paste to bring in the third one, which is gonna be T3, isn't it? So I have 3 entries. So how do I place these entries? How do I place them? So how do I place the entries? So let me place them. So the same way we'll place, we simply say what? Self dot what? Dot T1 dot what? Place. That's how you do it. So where am I placing T1 at? Let me place T1 as 250. So X equal to 200, Y equal to 50. That's where I'm placing my T1. So let me place the rest so that we can run and see all of them. So if I copy this and come down, paste, and come down and paste. So this is gonna be for T2, and this is gonna be for T3. So where do I want to place my T2? Let me place T2 at 200, 100. I'm placing T2 at 200, 100. And finally, I'm going to place my T3. I'm placing it at 200, 200. So that they be in the same column but in different rows, or in the same row but in different columns. So I'm going to save this and run again so that I'll see all my 3 buttons. If I run, I should see my 3 buttons. Please, did anybody run and see his own? My own is taking time to come. Okay, it's out, finally out. You can see. Please, can you see my screen on my application? Is it showing? Good. So these are my 3 buttons. You can see them. My 3 entries, which we are going to be writing in. Where the label is simply telling us what it stands for, where the entry is where we actually type in. Okay. So let's keep going now. So we created our labels. So let me put a comment here so that it will be more interesting. So these are our what? Labels. And here, what do we have here? We have our entries. Entry. Good. So finally, what are we going to be having? Now, let's have what we call the buttons. Let's bring in the buttons. So to bring in the buttons, I'm going to simply copy this because it's just the same way I'm going to do it. So instead of entries, I'm going to call these buttons. So we're bringing the button widgets. So all these things are known as widgets. Take note, whether it's entry or any of them. So let me bring in the buttons. So I'm going to bring in BTN1, button 1. So I'm simply going to call it BTN1. That's the first button. And because it's a button, it's looking at the class of what? Button. So inside it, I'm going to have what I want to be in the button. And what do I want to be in the button? First of all, I want it to be placed in the window. And I want the text on the button to be equal to what? Add. That's what I want the text to be. So in that same way, I'll simply copy this, paste it here, so that I don't have to type all this over. Paste it here. So after button 1, the next one is going to be what? Button 2. So what do I want to be on my button 2 class? What text would I want there? Subtract, isn't it? Because we've added subtract. Then finally, the last button we have is what? What's the last button we have? Button 3, isn't it? Would we need button 3? In order to press the result, I think that's where we need button 3. Are we together? Let's first of all show these 2 buttons first. So let's place them. How do we place? We simply say what? BTN 1. So let's place button 1. Where do we place button 1? So let's place button 1 at 100, 150. Okay. So next thing we place button 2. So where do we place button 2? Let's place button 2 at 200, 150. So both of them are 150, but different. So let's take out button 3 since we don't need it yet. So let's run this by 7. So once we save, we'll come down here and run so that we'll see the effect. So can you see the add and subtract button? Is it showing for everybody? Okay. So we now have our add and subtract button. So we're going to now try to add functions to this, so that when we do this, let's say you add 200 here and you add 100, when you click on add bagam, you should be able to see the addition here. And when you click subtract, you should be able to see the subtraction by doing 200 minus 100 inside here. So that's what we'll try to do now. We'll try to create functions. So in our subsequent previous class, what did we call that? We say that we'll call it what? Trigger. So let's create all these functions that will do this triggering work. So to do that, let's create for addition first. Let's create for what? Addition. So to create a function, what keyword do we use? Def. Thank you. So we'll simply say def, then we'll say add. That's the name of the function. And it's going to take the argument of self. Then once you come down, we are going to write the function. So what is it going to do? First of all, we're going to say self dot. We are looking at the input. What we are going to be using as input is T3, which is the input. So T3 is the entry where we are going to be taking the input, which is the final answer. The T3 is the entry for your result. So once you press this add, we want that entry for your result to be empty first. Is that clear? So that the new calculated something can come in there. So to do that, simply say self.t3 dot delete. Want to delete everything that is in there, in that your answer, that your result answer. So to delete, what do? You simply put a and put 0. Put your bracket and put 0. And simply say end. So that's the first thing you do. Whenever you click your add, you want everything in the result to be deleted so that that result will be free. So now we're going to declare some variables, integer variables that will enable us to do the addition. And the number one thing we are going to take is what? Num1. So this num1, once you type it in as a string, you want it to be converted to an int. And to do int casting, we did casting in the first class. You simply say int. That's what you do. So in brackets, you put in what you want to be casted to int, and that is what? Self.t1, which is what you type in your entry 1. T1 dot what? Get. You're getting what is there. You're getting that very string that you type. So use the .get function to get it. So once you get it, you want it to be converted to an integer and be assigned to the variable num1. So that's what we did here. We got what is in T1, which is supposed to be a string. We casted it to integer and we assign it to line 1. So having gotten your num1, you have to get the num2, isn't it? So you simply say num2 is equal to the same thing. Any number you type into num2, you want to get it and cast it to int. So you simply say in bracket what? Self dot t2, isn't it? Self dot t2 dot get. You're getting the string. So very important, and casting it and assigning it to the value num2. So having done that, what do you want to do finally? You want to get your result. And your result is going to be equal to what? Simply going to be equal to num1 plus what? Num2. That's what your result is. And once you've gotten this result, what do you want to happen? You want to now add it to the result entry, Because you cleared it and made it 0 before, you now want to add it. So how do you do that? Simply say self dot. The result entry, as we all know, is T3. So you say dot insert in order to insert it there. So once you've inserted it, you're good to go. You can simply say end. And this time around, it will now come back to what? String. So that you can actually see it and consume it. So that's what we have. That is the function to add. So we're going to run this function and see what it does before we create the function for subtract. And for this to be effective, you know, you're having an event handler. So you have to go to that button. So what is the button for add? What is it, B1 or B2 or what? What button is for the add? B1, ba? So in order to make this to know that you've created a function that has to be triggered when you press it, you have to come to it. So immediately after you said text equal to add, you simply put what? Command, and you say command. That's the command that has to be performed whenever you clicked it. And you say command is equal to what? Self dot, what is the name of the function? Add, self dot add. So that's what you must do. If you don't do this, it will not know. So after doing this, I'm going to simply save. And we're going to try to run our code and see whether it is effective. So save it and run. And let's use the, what's it called? Let's use the add button and see whether it's working. So you can see there is no colon. I didn't put a colon in front of my def add function. So I'm simply going to put this colon here. Very important. I have to save again. So when I save again, I then come back and run again. Okay. So it's reading some error. What's the error? Simple card object has no attribute add. So I've not added the attribute add. So what could have been the issue? So I'm going to check through the code. I have my import to simple calc, okay, file, init, okay, save button equal to button, command equal to self.add. Okay. Yeah, somebody wants to say something. Does anybody want to say something? Okay, let me check this out. Saying simple card object has no attribute add. Dot add, I have dot add here, I have the add. Where could the error be from? One, two, three, four, five. Okay, please let me check the indentation. Make sure your indentations are okay. I have class, then I have def, in it. Okay. So you can see where my problem is. Can you see it? Can you see my indentation? Who can notice my error and tell me about it? Huh? My dev, what happened to it? It's not on the same line now. It's not on the same line as this other thing. So let's put it there by taking this back, taking all these ones back by one. So if I do Control S to save again, then I come down here and run again. Okay, it's working now. So you can see very simple things. Indentation matters a lot in Python. So let me do some addition. Let me do 300 and what? 40. Then I press the add key. Can you see 340? Our calculator is working. We'll build something that is working for the first time. And it's so sweet. I'm so happy that we have this. So you should be very happy that you're able to build a simple calc like this. So do I give it as an assignment for you people to do subtract? Can I see the person that can easily do subtract very fast for us? Okay, yeah, people want it as an assignment. Oh yeah, assignment, I'm giving you 30 minutes. I'm not stopping this video. I'm waiting until you guys finish. Let's see the person that can do subtract. And to do subtract, I'm going to give you guys a clue. It's very simple. Just simply copy this addition code. I simply say copy. Then I come down. And I do what? Paste. That's what I have. So these are the triggers. And this first trigger is for what? This first trigger is for the add. So I'm going to say addition trigger. Or the second one that we are going to be having here is what? What kind of trigger are we going to be having here? Subtraction trigger. So it's going to be triggering the subtraction button. So what do I have in place of add? What should I write there? Sub. That's the name of the function. Then the same thing, before it does the subtraction, it's going to clear off what is in T3. Then you're going to pick out what number 1 is and what number 2 is. Very simple. So those ones are not changing. Then the result is going to now be what? Num 1 minus instead of num 1 plus. Num 2. Okay. So who is getting a clue? Who can do that for me? Who can get that clue and complete it? What do you want to do? Yeah, so do we continue? Who can finish it up? So once you've done num 1 minus num 2, what else do? You insert your result as a string. So I think that is done. It's not much. Okay, you've done. Is your own working? Perfect. So Fortune has already finished his own and is working. Who else has finished? Somebody should tell me if you finished. Remember to add the command here. Ibokwe, were you able to do it? Remember to add it. Did you all run?
I'm still on it.
Okay, so you have to add it and add it up here. So if you now run now, so I'm gonna save and run now. So if I run, yeah, I'm seeing it now. So let me try to do 300 minus 80, which is be 220, and press on the word subtract. You can see 220. So both the addition and subtraction are working perfectly. So with that, we can say that we fully created our app. You can see that our application is so nice, so sweet, and it's working perfectly. This is a simple calculator. In subsequent classes, we will look at building a more difficult calculator. We might not be able to do that because of our time constraint. We might just jump into our inventory in the evening. So in the evening, we are going to be looking at our inventory. So class, if you have any question now, you can ask me your question. Let me take your questions now. Let me take your question. I believe that you guys are enjoying TKinter. Once you understand TKinter, when we are learning Kiwi, you find out that Kiwi is very simple. With Kiwi, you can build desktop application, you can build Android application in Python. So those are the things we'll also be doing in our Python 2.0, where we'll be learning web application using Django. So let me take your questions now before we sign off. It's like nobody has a question, so I'm going to be signing off. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. So see you in the evening when we'll be looking at our inventory application. But if you guys don't want us to look at the inventory, we can also look at a full-fledged calculator so that the inventory will look at it on Saturday. So any which way you guys want it to do, that's how we're going to do it. Okay, let's just start with the inventory, the GUI of the inventory by evening. So if you are not able to finish up the logic, the functions and the logic, you can do that on Saturday. So with that, we'll come to the end of basics of Python. By this time next month, we are going to be doing Python 2.0, which will involve web component development using Django. And Django is a library for creating web applications. Then we're going to be looking at Kiwi. Kiwi is a library that you can also use for desktop application as well as Android application and iOS application. So we're going to be able to use Python to do all this. Thank you so much. God bless you. Remember that everything you want is in Christ Jesus. And the easiest way to success is by being a born again. Thank you. God bless you.